Today I'm going to be presenting some of the globalization case studies, or if you really want to say it, the global systems and global governance case studies, but I thought globalization is a bit shorter. That is also the topic that we're looking at. Um, the things we'll be talking about here will be Greece and the EU, Somalia's remittance problem, the World Bank, and saying Tata sounds too British for me, so I'm gonna say Tata Steel UK in AQA A-level geography. Um, so the specification doesn't exactly say like you need these case studies. The only one that you might want is the Tata Steel UK, talk about one manufacturing product, but then again we have the food commodity, which was the banana trade. And there's some things here with like uh, sub-Saharan Africa, which is in one of them, and some other things. Okay, so in Greece and the EU, so the background for this situation is that Greece funded a massive increase in the public sector, which was massive, inefficient, unsustainable, as public sector wages doubled in the last decade, 40% of the total economy. Public debt, from 2010 to 2014, there was an increase in public debt from 25% to 171%. The government had basically ran out of money. They were given bailout by the IMF, if you remember, is the International Monetary Fund. They were given 110 billion euros and a further 109 billion euros in 2011. Also, the global financial crash of 2008 caused problems with paying tax. Some issues that Greece had encountered is having to reduce the wage bills by increasing unemployment, which was 23% in 2013. There was some issues with devaluing currency, because when you're in the EU, you share the euro, except some countries, but mainly they operate with the euro. Devaluing currency is usually done to make exports more competitive and imports less. So they literally couldn't do that because you can't exactly devalue the euro. Like one country can't just do that. There were debts over 13 billion euro to the EU Central Bank, and Greece had almost left the EU in 2015 after joining it in 1970. So Somalia's remittance problem. So some background. There was little government regulation, with their government being established since 2012. There's a lack of anti-money laundering laws, suspicious activity reports for money transmitters, usually government money given to terrorist groups. With a population of 10 million and no central government, the banking system essentially disappeared in 1990. This led to Somali migrants deporting to Gulf states for work, essentially living now in diaspora. Some concerns was that 40% of Somalians rely on remittances to meet basic needs. 108, not 108, wow, 0.8 billion pounds. Because of concerns of money being given to terrorist groups such as Al-Shabaab. In 2012, many UK and US banks withdrew services from Somalia. Protests were done by human rights groups to support Somalians. Thousands of children rely on remittances to pay for monthly school fees. With this gone, it may lead to children down the path of crime. Stopping the flow of millions of pounds in financial support posed a threat for international security. However, the US should protect its people on one hand, but on the other, maybe the US should help the vulnerable people in Somalia. But then again, to counter the US should help, maybe it shouldn't be US's responsibility, though it's a very iffy argument here. To help Somalians living in diaspora sent money back to Somalia, approximately £1.1 billion. This contributed 23% of Somalia's GDP, surpassing any amount of aid given to this country. So the World Bank, the situation we have here is in the Niger Basin in sub-Saharan Africa. It is used for water to support farmers and fishermen. There are threats to food security, climate change leading to civil unrest and terrorism, and feeds the vicious cycle of rural poverty and insecurity. Solutions to clean use of renewable energy to get electricity and other needs for development were sought. Project by World Bank and the CIWA, the Cooperation in International Waters in Africa, invested the hydroelectric plants, reservoir irrigation schemes, plus navigation facilities help reduce poverty and boost shared prosperity, climate resilience, and improved livelihood in Niger Basin countries. However, this can be seen as a top-down approach, which doesn't tackle the immediate problem of poverty, exploitation, lack of clean water, education, and disease epidemics. So now we have the manufacturing case study that you can learn if you'd like to, instead of bananas, but I think bananas are a bit funnier, just because. So we have Tata Steel UK. So some background is that when leaders of premier economic groups, aka the G10, met in 2015, they had shared economic concern for steel plant closures across Europe, US, Mexico because of competition from cheap Chinese steel. This is related to the Chinese construction boom that faltered in 2015 and demand fell, and Chinese steel producers looked to international markets to absorb the overproduction. And they sold steel for lower prices than the production of it, which caused other steel markets to lose jobs, close altogether, because they couldn't compete. Half of 1.6 trillion kilograms of steel made globally each year comes from China. Huge pricing power. Following 18 months of steel dumping, Britain's steel industry was unable to compete and jobs were lost. So in 2016, Tata Steel wanted to sell their business, risking the jobs of thousands of employees. The British government disagreed with this and helped Tata find a buyer for the company. This intervention stopped short of direct conflict with the Chinese government. In 2015, the EU imposed an anti-dumping duty for 6 months on select steel imports from China and Taiwan. However, the Brexit vote raised questions among buyers of Tata Steel about whether or not the UK, not in the EU, would have a free hand to impose more protective tariffs. Okay, here is a past exam question. I've actually asked this one before, but now you could talk about the manufactured product instead of the food commodity. And here is a 4 marker. Thank you.